The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Sunday edition of the HighLowSports podcast. And you know what? We're not necessarily here to talk about what we normally would talk about on a Sunday. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host, Kelcey. And you know what, Kelcey? Normally Sundays we'd be here to talk about football, 4th and 4 predictions, something along those lines. But today we're going to pivot to the baseball diamond and WTF. What we've all been waiting for finally happens, and 98% of the world is not happy with it.
Yeah, rightfully so. Let's be honest. We just witnessed the most egregious contract I think we've ever seen in all sports, not just North American sports, literally all sports. It is the richest contract of any sport in any nation in the world. And we just witnessed it for a glorified hitter right now. And I know I'm belittling what he's actually done, but you know what? He went to Dodgers, so I don't care anymore.
He went from one of the favorites to one of the least favorites now. As in case anyone hasn't been paying attention, Shohei Ohtani is staying in LA, I guess. Really, probably doesn't have to move out of his home. He's just heading over to the Dodgers at this point. It's 10 years, $700 million contract. That's enough to give every single person in the country $1.5 million each and still have plenty left over. Absolutely insane deal. Having joined the Dodgers, and you got to mention too, he's not able to pitch next year too. So the first year that you're going to get, he's still one of the best hitters in the game. So you can't really say like you're only getting part of what he does, but you're only
getting a hitter, not a hitter and a fielder.
Exactly. You're getting a DH basically at this point.
Yeah. $700 million DH, $70 million a year DH. Is that what it? Like realistically, let's think about it. We just had our first DH make it to the MLB Hall of Fame. I don't think we're at the point where we should be paying $70 million for a DH.
Granted, this is all with a little bit of jest as well, too. So you know what he's expected to provide as a pitcher moving forward as well. Expected to, depending on how he recovers from surgery, we'll have to see as well. What he's done previously has earned that money, but what is he gonna? You have 10 years of paying him right now. How much of that? When's he going to be able to pitch, and how is he going to pitch coming off of surgery as well, too? When it comes to pitchers, it's a very fickle when it comes to surgeries because you never know how much it's going to take off of them as well. How much are you going to bounce back? Your arm is everything as a pitcher. So if you get 95% of your arm back, you're not the same. You really, unfortunately, are not the same. So,
well, and this is the second. This is the second Tommy John's for this man. We're not talking about the first Tommy John surgery. This is the second. He did wait, which is good because it keeps the muscles, in place for the surgery. But still, it doesn't help you in the fact that you are now on your second Tommy John's. It's not like he was the greatest pitcher in the world either. It's not like he was like, Nolan Ryan out there. We're talking about an average middle relief type of pitcher who's starting games once every 14, 15 days. It wasn't like we're talking about a guy who's going every 6 days. He wasn't winning 20 games a year. He wasn't striking out over 200. He wasn't, doing anything that you would expect from let's say you take the contract, $700 million. You split it into two. One's for his hitting, one's for his pitching. He's not a $350 million over 10 years pitcher either. Like that's just what it is. He's not that good. As far as pitching, he's two players, yes. What he's doing is unheard of, but he's not that great of a pitcher that he's worth $350 million as a pitcher. Alone. I mean, and especially when he can't pitch the first year of the contract, that's like, okay, so now you're paying $70 million for just a DH in this year. Next year, after that, $35 million for a pitcher to only pitch 10 games, 12 games, whatever he ends up pitching, and a hitter to play in 120 games.
At this point, I compare him to cross sports, so like Josh Allen or Cam Newton or something like that. You're not paying it. You're getting it because of his duality, the ability to run and throw in those guys' cases as one of the elite runners and elite passers. With him, you're getting him as someone who's really good at both. That's what
he's not really good at both. That's the thing.
He's good at both. At least he's good at both.
He is above average. He's really good hitter. I mean, he is a really good hitter. He is
good enough.
Not a fielder, so that's a big zero. So his winnable replacement takes a hit immediately when you talk about the fact he doesn't play defense unless he's pitching. So we're not talking about a 5-tool player here. We're talking about a 3-tool player. He hits and he pitches and he runs the bases. That's 3 tools out of the 5 that you can possibly have. We're paying $700 million for a 3-tool player who one of his 3 tools is not elite. 2 of the 3, I'd say for his size, his running is elite. in the grand scheme of things, it's not an elite level. It's above average level. His hitting, above average, not elite. He's not out here hitting 400 every game. He's not even winning batting titles. He's not winning home run derbies. He's not winning home runs here. Yes, he is an MVP candidate, but you're also playing on the worst team with nothing going for it, and you're an absolute anomaly, which is fantastic, which is going to get you some credit. But just strictly looking at the numbers, strictly looking at the skills you see on the field, he's not even Ichiro level hitting the bat, hitting the ball. He is good. There's no taking away from it, but just straight looking statistically, above average in 2 of the 3 tools, and then average in his 3rd tool. I mean, if he was just a straight pitcher, he would have been sent down to the minors 4 times over now.
But I will add on top of that too is the one thing when we look at the payment to him too. Part of the reason getting that contract too is his global appeal too, because he's going to bring in a whole lot of money just for the Dodgers as far as apparel. Which it's another aspect that you don't always like in that one too. And unfortunately, as a Giants fan, now you have to deal with it a lot more often as well. And honestly, thought the Giants were going to be more heavily involved in it as well too. I thought they were one of the teams.
Oh, they were one of the 5 finalists, right?
I honestly thought they were going to be one of the favorites. Maybe it did come down to the last 2. We'll learn more.
This definitely came down. Honestly, this would have definitely came down to the Blue Jays, who's funded by the Rogers Center, who Rogers as a company, if we're talking money-wise and international, Rogers is trying to stem into the East, especially Japan. What better way to do so than signing somebody like Shohei? They were obviously in the running for that reason. You talk about the Dodgers, they don't care about money. They literally are going to have next year $100+ million tied up into 3 players. Now, at this point in time, they don't care that it's just money. They just want to put their name out there. Whether that's detrimental to what's on the field, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, I mean, this is a contract that definitely got inflated because of what he is. We're talking about a guy who now is getting paid more than Lionel Messi is getting paid, and Cristiano Ronaldo is getting paid, and any other player in the world is getting played right now. Let's be very clear about that. And he's doing so because of his name and likeness, which is fine. I mean, okay, sure, but yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it would definitely came down to the Dodgers and Blue Jays, but this is insane. It brings the question up of, okay, should we finally see something in the MLB where you limit salary caps? Maybe not a cap per se, but you can only have 4 max players. Like, set a max contract out there that's 10 years, $350 million. Set that as a max contract. And you can only have 2 players on that max on that what we'll call a super max, essentially using the NBA term for it. Like, that would make considerations. That would make things a little bit more even across the playing field. I know the salary cap was eliminated to make the game a little bit better for Major League Baseball and allow you to go get players like that. But yeah, this one breaks my heart in a lot of ways, not just because he goes to the Dodgers, but because this is a guy, I mean, honestly, lovable guy. Love Shohei as a person. Love what he's done for the game. Doing something that's unheard of. He is an anomaly. It's not like he's a great anomaly, but he is doing something that is absolutely unheard of at levels that we have never seen before in what he's doing. But again, this is like, okay, well, this is the richest playground. Everybody else, get out. Honestly, if the Yankees hadn't gotten their man in Juan Soto, they would have probably been in this conversation as well.
Absolutely as well. But it's very odd. We come off of the first World Series, and Lord knows how long that didn't have the Yankees, the Astros, or the Braves in. I think it was like a 12-year run or something like that, where we had one of those 3 in there. We finally get some parity, and then the offseason is run by 2 teams once again, the Dodgers and the Yankees as well. And
yeah.
You mentioned the Yankees as well, getting Juan Soto from the Padres. Trade involves 7 players. It looks like Yankees get Trent Grisham and Soto, where Kyle Higashioka, I believe. I apologize, I butchered that name. Michael King, Drew Thorpe, Jory Brito, and Randy Vasquez heading to the Padres. And I guess it makes sense because if they weren't going to be able to re-sign Soto, you get what you can for him. But at the same time, I don't like it either because it's once again the Dodgers and the Yankees, the 2 teams that we already get sick of it year in and year out, and yet here they are. Yeah,
I mean, so Higashioka is the catcher going to the Padres. So there's 2 things to this. This is underratedly good for the Padres, if I'm going to be honest, because you get 2 top 100 prospects coming to you, both pitchers. Which, if we're going to be honest, let's talk about the Padres line or rotation. They need help. Their bullpen needs help. These guys coming in, they're going to help out. Like there's a number 13 rated prospect in MLB coming over. That's going to be the dude's going to see time next year. Number 99 is the other top 100 prospect. So Vasquez is the number 13 on prospect. Drew Thorpe is number 99 total in the MLB. So both guys are going to see time next year. You probably see Michael King in the big squad. So they're going to see time directly for the Padres to help out with their issues in that lineup. Because let's be honest, before Juan Soto, this team is still a really good team. With Juan Soto, he filled in admirably to sidestep Fernando Tatis's misdoings, if you will, and that issue. And then when he came back, obviously that team was offensively, statistically amazing. But yeah, it sucks you lose Juan Soto if you're the Padres, but if you're the Yankees, you're like, oh, great. Now I have somebody that can cover for Aaron Judge at all times. So great. Now what do we do? So now you don't have to worry about the Giancarlo Stanton issues of him not hitting the ball, period. So now you have Juan Soto, who's a very, very nice security blanket. He can do it all himself. This sucks for Juan Soto because he's not going to be the number one guy on the team. But I don't think he cares, because now he's going to be here with the Yankees in the pinstripes, hitting in probably the 3-hole right behind Aaron Judge at the 2, and he's going to have absolutely every opportunity to hit 100, to get 100 plus RBIs every season. He's going to see a lot of pitches to hit, which is something, especially when you get to the Padres, was an issue. People didn't give him a lot of pitches to hit there. We all know what his bat can do. So, giving Juan Soto this opportunity is amazing. But I also think the Padres didn't really lose in this one. Yes, you lose a big name, but as far as the future goes for the Padres, they're still a young team, minus Manny Machado for the most part. And who knows? Maybe they get in on one of these pitchers sweepstakes. Maybe Yamamoto from Japan comes over as part of the opportunity there. And there you go. You now have a full pitching lineup to go with your young team as well. So they're set up. So I don't know. The Yankees, though, I think this is writing on the wall. This is what the Yankees go and do. They go get the good players that are out there, what they need. This is the first one I've actually seen them actually go and chase. That's actually, I agree, there's a full, need on their team, not just he's the best guy out there, I want him in the pinstripes. Like, no, it's really just straight up like you actually need this position filled, so go get it. But yeah, I think this is good for both teams. But I mean, obviously the Yankees getting Soto really helps out.
I will say you can't really go wrong when you add somebody like Soto to the Yankees. It obviously fills that type of need, but they also kind of sucked at pitching last year. Outside of Garrett Cole, they struggled a little bit on the mound, and this does not help that whatsoever necessarily. Which, you know what, they kind of just turned into last year's Padres when I look at it, where they're gonna have to win their games like 7-5 at this point. They're not winning too many 2-1, 3-2 type of games, because they're gonna have to have some serious firepower, especially when Garrett Cole's not pitching. So weirdly enough, they kind of were the same team on opposite coasts, and they just kind of flip-flopped a little bit in a way. But if you're the Padres, I think your pitching staff was a little bit better to begin with, not by much. Yeah. And I think this deepens it a little bit. Like King's going to see he's, like you mentioned, he's going to be in the rotation out of the gate. Some of those prospects down the stretch, they're going to play. So long-term, it should work out for the Padres. The GM said that as well. If you're the Yankees, it's what you do. This is literally your MO at this point. You don't like it, but it makes sense. It just don't like it.
Yeah, no, I hate it for all purposes. It's funny though. You mentioned the Yankees needing to have all the firepower, and this just fits into their ballpark. It's kind of like what the Rockies did at Coors, right? They embraced the fact that Coors was a launching pad for so many years, that they had big hitting left-handers or big hitting right-handers on their team. Think back to the Matt Holliday days. They went and got all these talented hitters so that way they could keep up at home. And then when they go away, the hitting doesn't just go away; they just don't fly as far. And you're pitching. While they're used to giving up 4 earned runs a game, now can go into another pitch, maybe a pitcher's friendly ballpark, like, I don't know, Washington per se, and go in there and only give up 2 earned runs a game. And now you're still getting 7 runs on offense, but you're only giving up 2 per game. So, it's I think we're going to see a situation where the pitching staff for the Yankees isn't going to be the primary focus. It's just going to be like, all right, we just need to get through these games, and they're going to use this short porch in right field and as an advantage to let their hitters just go out there and have a good time. I guess that's the best way I can put it. We're going to see a return of the Bronx Bombers, even though they're going to be hitting pop flies for home runs. But it's okay. It's what play to your park. At the end of the day, that's you play to your strengths. Your park's one of your strengths. Play to your park. I never disagree with that idea. It's what so many great teams have done in the past. So it doesn't surprise me at all. So yeah, I mean, It'll be fun to see Juan Soto with a short porch, though. Do you think 60's out of his reach? I don't know.
I don't know about that. You mentioned Palladium Park. You play half of them there, so you get 82 games at home, if I'm not mistaken, if my math is correct.
Yeah.
83, you win, let's say 61 of those. We'll say it's a good year and you win 60 of 80 at home because you just bombs away. Then you win 30% on the road. You're a 90 win team pretty quickly out of the gate that way. So it makes sense. And even in some of those other ballparks, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, if Giancarlo Stanton is able to connect with the ball, you've got 3 nuclear warheads at the bat. Like you can't walk all of them.
Yeah, and it's funny because in this conversation we've talked about a guy who just signed a 10-year contract, and we're talking about the Yankees now replacing a guy who signed a 10-year contract and covering for a guy who signed a 10-year contract here with the Yankees, with Stanton and Judge being I guess Judge only signed a 9-year, but still super long contracts. And it's funny how a guy like Juan Soto, who's on a trade, is going to be probably the most impactful out of all 3 of them this year coming up. And no offense to Shohei going to the Dodgers, no offense to Giancarlo Stanton and Judge for what they do for the Yankees, but you talk about coverage, you talk about offense and defense. Because let's not kid ourselves, Juan Soto's not a plus defender, but he plays defense. The guy can cover the outfield, and we'll talk about need on the Yankees. Well, you need an outfielder. You need somebody to go out there and cover. You guys had one of the worst outfields in the history of the game last year as far as defensive coverage goes.
Can run the bases too.
Yeah, I mean, go out there. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to have to worry about Giancarlo Stanton trying to stretch from third to home and looking like he's just absolutely walking. I mean, I can run faster than that. That's embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be nice for the Yankees from a lot of standpoints. So as much as I'd love to say Shohei and $700 million is most impactful, I'm going to say Juan Soto might be the most impactful out of this. That's my opinion, though. I don't know. What do you think?
I kind of agree with you when I'm just looking at what they had last year. Obviously, for the Yankees, is a bad year. For example, you were trotting out Josh Donaldson with his 15 hits and like 13 runs in that. Now you get to basically take, obviously, he got released during it, and they play different positions, different batting lineups. But you're taking out that bat and you're putting in someone like Soto who could do that in a month, basically. You can get you 15 hits in a month pretty comfortably.
As opposed to that in 3 days.
Honestly, in this lineup, he might be able to get that in a week pretty comfortably in a couple of games, especially there's some double headers in there. So I agree with you. I think that one might be a little more impactful out of the gate. I am curious with the Ohtani thing, circling back before we round it up. If he was just decided to commit to being a hitter like he's going to do this year, I wonder if that is going to make him an even more prolific hitter if he's not worried as much about pitching, which in theory, he was, like you said, above average hitter to pretty darn good. Like,
there were stretches of there's stretches of elite level hitting. Like, let's not kid. Like, I'm not trying to belittle everything he's doing, but people get so enamored by the fact he did both pitching and hitting.
Parts were not special. As the fact that it was a sum of parts.
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely, it's like, yes, he has a A+ fastball, but he has a B+ everything else. He did have he has a wipeout slider when he's on, but the problem is he was on 1 out of every 6 starts, and he only gave you 13 starts in the season. So that's the concern, is like, he gave up 7 runs in the game. Let's not forget that this last year. I mean, that was right before his injury, but it still happened. But then he also had games where we were calling it on Colorcast in his, 2 years ago, where it was like, oh God, this guy could be a Cy Young contender if he just pitched full time. So
it was the yin and the yang. If he just did one, which one would he be better? Or is it because he does both? I'm curious who he does as a hitter. If he cranks 60 home runs this year as just a hitter, it's gonna be like, you know what? Contract makes sense a little bit after all. You know what? Shoehei.
If he goes out here and he posts a plus 300 batting average and he gives you 100 RBIs and he gives you, you know what? I'm going to give it a real easy mark here. I'm going to give you 35 plus home runs to hit. If he can hit 35 plus home runs and give you 15 plus stolen bases, that contract, you know what? Fine. You're the Dodgers. That's a contract you can afford. No other team out there could afford that realistically this year. No other team is stupid enough to commit that much money to a player. So, I mean, I'm just saying that because the Yankees have that committed to like 4 players now instead of just 3. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But then part of me also hopes he goes out there and is just a pure DH a la David Ortiz and gives you, but like only hits like, Matt Stairs, 12 home runs, like 10 RBI. Like, as a biased against the Dodgers, I don't want this player to be great. But at the same time, I love Shohei, so I want him to be great.
Part of you wants him to be Adam Dunn against the San Francisco Giants, basically. But then the rest of the year, do whatever you got to do, just as long as they don't get in the way.
Yeah, just suck versus the Giants and then do everything else great.
Exactly. Just don't get in the way, basically. And they were a playoff team. They did get bounced right away and got obliterated in their first playoff round. But they were still a playoff team. So you add he's able to add just the batting statistics you mentioned a minute ago, maybe that gets him at least a little bit further as well. They didn't have as many holes as like the Padres and the Yankees necessarily did across the lineups.
No, there's a lot of average to slightly above average players in the Dodgers, and then obviously beyond that, there are 3 or 4 greats that are in that team day in and day out. Or I wouldn't say great, but above average to elite level. And last year, the big problem was like Mookie Betts is carrying this team offensively, and that should not be a thing that happens consistently. Yes, he's a great player, but like, yeah, let's not make Mookie Betts also carry our home run lead, because that's not going to help your team in general. Like, let's have somebody allow Mookie to get on and use all 5 tools. Talk about the 5 tools again. A guy who has all 5 tools, and then let Shohei come in and be like, "Oh, hey, I'll hit you around. Like, no problem. I got you." I mean, Mookie Betts, let's not forget, the dude played shortstop at one point in time last year. That's how bad the injuries got for the Dodgers. So it's not like it was all, sunshine and peaches for the team. So there's some holes to be filled, but at the same time, they're doing it with their farm system, whereas the Yankees are like, "You come here."
It's like, I'll write this check, I'll write this check, I'll write this check. We'll take that. We'll take that one.
Maybe the thriftiest move the Yankees have ever made, and it was a trade of all things.
Who would have thought, right? But the only hope is we don't see these 2 teams in the World Series next year. That's all I can hope for at this point. Or neither of them, ideally, but I can't always get what I want. But
I just want to see both of them out of the playoffs before it even starts. That'd be fantastic.
The American dream, if I dare say. But that's what we think of these 2 trades, a little special edition of the High Low Sports podcast. Go and let us know in the comments what you think. Which one of these trades did you hate more? Did you hate them both equally? Let us know down below. We will see you all again next time.